Welcome to Mamamia Out Loud. It's what women are actually talking about on Monday, the 1st of September. My name is Holly Wainwright.
I'm Jessie Stevens.
I'm Amelia Lester.
And here is what is on our agenda for today.
The popular fertility test that doctors want you to ignore.
And Pam Anderson and Liam Neeson lied to us about their love. Why do I feel duped?
But first, in case you missed it, viral footage that circulated over the weekend captured a Millionaire CEO behaving very, very poorly. So to set the scene, we've got Polish tennis player Kamil Majak, who won his match on Saturday, the US Open. And as often happens, he then made his way to the crowd to go and sign some autographs. And there's this gorgeous young boy who is then seen excitedly handing him a giant ball to sign. And Majak is quite heartened by his enthusiasm, and we watch him in this video take off his match-worn hat and he goes to hand it to the boy. But he's kind of shuffling over as he does it.
You know how you're our tennis correspondent? A sweaty hat's a thing that you want.
Oh, that's a big deal. To get a piece of clothing
that's got the actual sweat of a Grand Slam.
The sweat of a winner, Holly Wainwright.
Okay.
I think that's
we can boil it down and drink it as tea.
Oh, my goodness. You could sell that on eBay for a bit of money. And maybe that's what the adult beside him was thinking, because this man appears to snatch the hat kind of out of the boy's, just as it's going towards the boy, he snatches it. Snatch is the right word. And puts it in his bag. And the boy looks devastated and yells, "What are you doing?" And the tennis player at this point, so he's moved on and he's missed the whole interaction. My first response to this was, there's got to be something we're missing, right? And maybe this is the boy's father, or there was some confusion. We shouldn't jump to conclusions. We've been burned before. Unsurprisingly, the internet was very quick to identify this man. They needed to hunt him down. And yes, he is a millionaire CEO. Amelia, what do you think people saw when they watched this video? Because it did feel a little bit Coldplay CEO coded all over again. Do you think it was the millionaire element that made people particularly invested?
Look, I think this is even worse than the Coldplay CEO. Szeszarek, who is, I apologize for my Polish pronunciation, but I am in fact Polish, so I feel I am allowed to mispronounce these names. Szeszarek, that's the name of the millionaire CEO. I just want to say, in his defense, he made his fortune in paving, which I don't think you mentioned.
No.
He does sponsor with his paving fortune his local tennis federation in Poland. So there's that. And he has also tried to reach out to make amends with the boy. That's according to Mishak. So we should say that in his defense. Now, having been fair to him.
Bring it, because the bit that got me in the video in particular was the shoving it in the bag. It was like there was the grabbing it was one thing, but the shoving it in the bag was the very
and ignoring the protests of the boy.
So there was a purported statement that came out from this man, the paving millionaire, as I will refer to him from now on. It circulated on social media over the weekend, and it said, "Yes, I took it, but as always, first come, first served is life." Now, unfortunately, this has not been verified as coming from the paving millionaire. But the reason why I think everyone latched onto it and wanted to believe it came from him is because it spoke to how we feel about CEOs right now. And watching this, all I could think was, is this not the most perfect visual representation of what the rapacious millionaire and billionaire class are doing to our younger people? Stealing from them for their own personal enrichment and rapaciousness. It's true.
Don't you reckon that millionaire CEOs need some good PR? They need...
It's not been a good summer for them.
It's not.
But you know what? Last summer was the summer where we had the billionaires being taken by the orcas. So I think they'd rather take some humiliating on-camera footage over that.
I like that summer better.
We should say as well that this did end up as a good news story, because the little boy, so the tennis player, Majak, he then jumped onto Instagram and was like, "I didn't realize that little boy didn't get the hat. Can you please help me identify him?" And a bunch of people flooded to his Instagram and gave him the boy's details. And then there's a beautiful photo series of them meeting. He gives him a autographed hat. He gives him a bunch of gifts, and they got a photo together.
It's good news, bad news for my Polish brethren this weekend.
Exactly. An article in the Sydney Morning Herald over the weekend has blown the whistle on a popular fertility test many women are taking to basically plan their lives. The AMH test, also known as the egg count or ovarian reserve test, measures the anti-Müllerian hormone in the blood to estimate the number of eggs in a woman's ovaries.
Oh, I have so many friends who've taken it.
Yeah, I went and asked actually. I think I was in my early 30s and I went and asked a doctor and just wanted to do it. And the doctor just looked at me and said, nah,
Really?
I'm not letting you go and take.
Really?
Yeah. He said, come back to me in, a few years if you're still anxious, but you're fine. Until I read this story, the way I understood it was if you've got a high number, you've got all the time in the world, right? You've got too many eggs. You can just wait forever. Low number, you've got to freeze your eggs or you should have started trying years ago and it's time to panic. But according to the world-leading medical journal, Fertility and Sterility, the test provides false information. Quote, it is likely driven by financial incentives, and they strongly discourage using this test to predict a woman's fertility. Australian experts came out in this piece and said that women should not be basing lifelong decisions on these tests. And the University of Sydney's Dr. Tessa Kopp says clinics and online companies co-opt feminist language using phrases like empower your fertility to market these tests to a lot of women who don't need them. In truth, there is no reliable test for women's fertility, and there are a number of factors that determine someone's ability to conceive, including, of course, her partner or her donor. I find the role of feminism or empowerment interesting here because it feels like women's fertility is becoming increasingly politicized. Amelia, have you noticed this?
Yes, in a word. I was shocked that this test that basically has no grounding in anything is being dispensed all around the country now.
Yeah, I know women who, I have a friend who is maybe, I think just turned 40, and she said to me recently, I got that test, I'm fine. I've got all the time. And I don't know the details of her fertility, but I know now that doesn't paint a full picture for a lot of people, and a lot of people use it. I think that if you're looking at egg freezing or IVF, it can be a little bit helpful, but if you're just looking for some reassurance, nah, not it.
I found this so interesting because obviously people have been trying to profit off women's anxiety and insecurities for a long time. But right now, fertility is really in the spotlight and it's being wielded as an issue in sort of political terms. I don't know if you've heard of this term, restorative reproductive medicine.
I've heard of it, but I don't know what it means.
So this is coming out of the US. There's a 25-year-old American woman named Emma Waters who is leading the charge. And she basically, IVF is under attack in the US right now in various courts. There are lots of religious conservatives who don't agree with it and who want to outlaw it.
I thought they really liked babies.
Isn't that funny, Holly? They like babies, but only on their terms.
Okay.
And so there's a big push for right now within the Trump White House, led by this 25-year-old woman, Emma Waters, is basically to reframe the conversation away from IVF. And she said this explicitly, that this is what she wants to do. Reframe it away from IVF towards restorative reproductive medicine, which is a so-called natural way of addressing what its practitioners say are the root causes of infertility.
Is this a bit of Maha? So the Make America
so
Healthy
Maha, because
again.
It's basically saying like infertility can be cured by you eating healthier, exercising more, charting your menstrual cycle. As if women who want to be pregnant and who are trying to be pregnant haven't thought about charting their menstrual cycle before. It is absurd. So the American College of Gynecologists says that this is not a medical term, this idea of restorative reproductive medicine. But basically this is what's being sold as a replacement for IVF. At the same time, conservatives across the world, not just in the US, are also saying that young women should give up on the idea of a career and just have babies. Just have babies. It's easier. You don't have to worry about going to work.
This is what worries me about. It's interesting, Jessie, that you were saying that, lots of women around your age will go to the doctor and say, I want to find out how much time I've got. And what you're saying is that you think it shouldn't be used as a false sense of security, but it should maybe be used to spark you into action.
More so than that, I'm saying as well that a lot of experts are saying this is causing an enormous amount of anxiety when a woman is told you don't have a lot of eggs, and that doesn't mean you can't conceive.
Exactly. So it feels to me sometimes like we've pulled the lever back a little too. You know how we've said for Generation X, we were saying a lot oh, women think they've got all the time in the world. You know, we need to educate women about their fertility window. And I feel that women have been well and truly educated about their fertility window, possibly now to a point of panic, where we know that lots of women in their late 20s and early 30s are very worried about their fertility, maybe for good reason, and also maybe not for good reason. And as you've already pointed out, Amelia, the thing that worries me is that then there's a whole cohort of people who are very happy to capitalize on that. And there's an entire industry built around it, much of which brings great joy when they, you know, fertility treatments are successful and babies are born. But also we have no idea really how much of that is unnecessary. So whenever there's a financial incentive, I'm a little always
that's a good point.
Worried. But also it feels like a culture too where we are, and I don't mean, I'm not aiming this at women who I think we're entirely just responding to the messaging that's around us. But like there must be a test for that. There must be an app for that. There must be a fix for that. I must be able to get what I want when I want to get it. And I know that sounds brutal the way I just phrased that. I don't mean it to, but what I mean more is that the idea that there should be, that all these things are just going to be absolutely accurate. We were talking recently about how a lot of the period tracking apps that people absolutely swear by for telling them exactly what phase they're in and all those things are just general information.
It's all under the umbrella of putting it back onto women that we can control everything. Even this idea of don't have a career, have babies, as though women are ever making that choice in the abstract. Life happens to you. Sometimes you have a job, sometimes you have a baby, sometimes you don't have a job or a baby. And it's not all to do with what you're doing. And it puts so much pressure on women to say, well, have you taken the test? Have you fixed your diet? Have you charted your menstrual cycle?
Have you frozen your eggs?
And isn't it interesting that it's all on women? And I think that the AMH test, which, by the way, is not covered by Medicare, so women are out of pocket paying for this. And often it's used kind of as a test that you would do to then go, should I freeze my eggs? And I think it's worth mentioning that egg freezing, while it has, you know, offers freedom to a lot of women, it's also, especially in the US, I mean, it's a multi-billion-dollar business that is set to triple by 2030. People are making a lot of money off it. And all of this research has now come out that said freezing your eggs does not guarantee you a baby. So on the one hand, you have that. You have what feels like the exploitation of certain industries on women's anxieties and the pressure that they feel.
And on pseudoscience.
And yes, well, then you have this kind of backlash that I'm seeing, which is I'm seeing this all over my feeds, a real backlash towards even things like IVF, which I think is so distressing and hurtful to the many women I know who have had babies via IVF, as though that is a lesser choice, as though it wasn't necessary if they had just eaten more vegetables.
Well, as though it is a choice between eating vegetables or doing IVF.
As if they don't, like, I have never known anyone to try harder to make every lifestyle change for 12 months, all of the things that you do before you get to that decision. I just find like I'm actually, overused word, but triggered by a lot of these things that pop up that I go, well, I'm glad you had the privilege of getting pregnant in 2 months, but it probably had less to do with your diet and more to do with a bit of luck.
Mm-hmm. Friends, people are getting their labubus baptized and I really need to go back to bed. We're all across what a labubu is, right?
Yeah.
I saw one this morning. I mean, I see them often, but I saw one this morning on a grown man's backpack on the train, and I had to work really hard not to judge him. And if he's listening, I'm really sorry. You go hard with your labubu. I know they provide a lot of comfort to a lot of people.
Holly, I reckon that's the premise for your next novel. Yes. It starts with a man with a labubu on his bag, and Holly goes, how did we get here?
Yeah, I was like, what's your story? Sit down and tell me about that. I generally think of labubus as either hanging off school bags or very fancy handbags. It's like somewhere, those two things, right? But if you're not across what a labubu is, they are these ugly little fluffy dolly things, and you buy them in a blind box. Part of the whole fun and gamification of it is that you never know which one you're going to get, and there's a limited edition, and they release new ones all the time, and it's really exciting. Anyway, as well as being a blight of late-stage capitalism and a mountain of landfill waiting to happen, that cute little fluffy doll on that man's backpack is also demonic.
I didn't want to say anything, but have you seen that face?
It might be cursed. Yes, there's a viral theory going around that they might actually be demons. Inspired by a demon called, I just need to make sure I get my facts straight here because this is a very fact-heavy segment. Pazuzu, a demon from Mesopotamian. I'm so sorry, everybody.
Mesopotamian
Mythology, right. So people are getting priests, presumably really bored priests, to baptize their labubus, or they're hosting their own DIY ceremonies, tying them up and squirting them with holy water, for example, and filming it for TikTok. But don't worry, because I know you were worried. The people who created Labubus say they have nothing to do with Pazuzu. I know this is confusing by the stage, friends.
The Labubus have nothing to do with Pazuzu?
The Labubus have nothing to do with Pazuzu. And they were actually invented by a guy called Kazing Lung, created Labubus as part of his Monsters book series, and they're actually inspired by Nordic folklore. Are we feeling better about our demonic little friends, Jessie?
I have a question for the table. Am I the only one here who's been baptized?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, shit.
I feel appropriated as someone who has had my original sin.
I thought you were going to tie me down and squirt me with holy water.
I brought some holy water with me. No, I was born with my original sin.
Oh, yeah.
And then I was cleared of it.
Sorry.
And things have been absolutely great ever since. Baptism is not to be used to expel the demon from your teddy bear. That is not what they teach in the Catholic Church.
Oh.
Although I do remember being a kid and baptizing teddy bears. Like it was a
Really?
real, yeah. Because it was just a bit of a ritual and you had your little, you'd have a plate and you'd put the head in
That's
it.
so Catholic, Jessie.
I guess it's like an extension of playing with baby doll, right? Is that what
It
happens
is.
next is baby doll gets head done.
But what I will say is that all respect to priests, went to church a lot as a kid, their workload has declined in some parishes because, as people, my nan used to go all the time. My nan isn't around anymore. So I just wonder if priests are looking for some extra
seem
work.
busy in Conclave. Have you seen Conclave?
Oh, very busy.
Yeah, true.
Ray Fiennes,
True,
and
but they're
Stanley
the kind
Tucci,
they're the big bosses. I feel like there's
that's
your
true.
local parish priest.
who's sort of doing community outreach.
Yeah,
and he
and
thinks
he's
this
like,
will make him cool.
I'll baptize your Labubu.
Do you think that some really fancy top level, very rich influencer types are trying to get the Pope to
So true.
exercise their labubus?
With holy water.
Oh my God, can you imagine the requests? It would just be like, no. No.
We're busy.
What's the silliest thing you've seen me do?
I don't know if that's legal to talk about.
I was making bread for him all the time and muffins and cookies, and we really bonded. We really fell madly in love on the set. And
they were so excited. I heard it might have gone a little viral, Pamela.
really?
This was from just 4 minutes ago, all right? And then there's been some red carpet action.
Craig, we met on set, and we discovered we had a lovely budding chemistry.
Yeah.
I'm remarkably annoyed.
It was all a lie.
Well,
Two
we'll
things
get
happened
into it.
this weekend. The first was that we thought Donald Trump had died briefly. He had not. The second thing that happened is that TMZ broke the news that Pamela Anderson and Liam Neeson are not, in fact, in love.
Yeah.
As the Naked Gun movie they starred in starts to leave cinemas, sources told TMZ that Liam and Pam have never even had dinner together, at least not without their assistance. Apparently, they didn't see each other for a year after filming of the movie was over, and they only reunited for the red carpet. Now, I know what Jessie's going to say here. They're actors. I should never have been sucked in by the whole thing. This has happened lots of times before. Think of Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell. But I still feel really duped by this. I feel conned. And I want to talk to you about why this felt different and why it's not okay for them to do this
You
to
lay
us.
it out, Amelia. This is a
Thanks,
safe space.
Holly.
You tell us how you feel.
There was something about the two older people finding each other, especially after adversity and heartbreak. Think about the fact that Jolie Richardson, who is the sister of Liam Neeson's deceased wife, Natasha, she even posted heart emojis on an Instagram photo that Pam posted of the two of them. The two also had ample opportunities to tell us that they were not, in fact, a couple.
Yes.
I am starting to doubt whether Liam has even tried Pam's sourdough at this point.
I
Or her
share that
pickles.
concern.
So what the real question I want to ask you two, though, is isn't there a difference between leaning into something and directly misleading the public?
Yeah, That is exactly what they did. I, at the time, refused to care about this story because I just went, nah, you're pulling my leg. And I reckon that this is going to become...
That's because you have a master's degree.
Exactly right. And I know how to analyse things, unlike Holly over here who fell for it.
I was going to say I never fell for it. Anyway, we'll get to that.
I feel as though it's like the boy who cried romance, and that this happens so many times that we as a culture are going to go, unless you are having sexual intercourse on the red carpet in front of me, unless you have 4 children and a holiday house.
Don't put that idea in Kanye and Bianca's head, Jessie.
Then I'm not buying it.
Those two, that Bianca and Kanye, they're
real.
Met. Yeah, honestly.
I'm just not buying it anymore because it is now part and parcel of any campaign to get you to watch the movie. I saw this recently it didn't even make headlines because it's just like another day in tabloid media, but Jessica Alba and Orlando Bloom are making some movie called The Mark that no one's going to watch.
That sounds
right?
terrible.
Doesn't it sound terrible?
Already.
Why do I know what it's called? Well, because there are rumors from an insider source that they've started seeing each other on the set, confirmed by
Do you
no
know
one.
what I want to be? An insider source.
Yeah.
I just want to be calling TMZ saying, call me an insider source.
I need to come to Liam and Pammy's defense. I'm coming in hard for Liam and Pammy's
They
defense.
lied
They
to
did
us.
not. If you absolutely did not. So all of those grabs that you heard at the beginning of this, never did they say they were an item.
They were
Every single time they were asked, it was like, we fell madly in love on this when we're with each other's acting. Like, he's so silly and amazing when we're on the set together. I just think she's so, and here's the clue, right? When people are really in a relationship, famous people, they do everything to not be sprung. They are not filmed making out on the set of the Today Show, which is exactly what happened with Pammy and Liam. They literally had one of those moments where they looked like they were making out and the camera sprung them. Clearly a gag. You also take into consideration the movie they were promoting, which was a farce, a silly farce, right? Full of like 1980s inappropriate kind of jokes. This was always clearly a showmance. The fact that we all fell for it says a lot about us, which is that we are just desperate. As you said, Amelia, we want happy endings for both these people, and we are also desperate for good news and distraction.
But isn't there something kind of new and crossing the line about what happened here? I mean,
I
think
don't know.
so. It's
gross.
I don't think so because I entirely understand it, right? They're promoting a movie, Naked Gun sequel, blah, blah, reboot, which it's famously the case at the moment that the only movies that make it in theatres either are made from existing IP, like this one, or they're a superhero franchise. Theatrical market is shrinking. They are in a tooth and nail fight for attention and eyeballs. We would never have even heard about this movie, really, if they hadn't been so charming together on the press tour. So it makes absolute sense. It is not new, as you've already said, Amelia, but remember Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper? Gaga admitted that was entirely deliberately orchestrated. Let's keep them guessing. Let's gaze at each other lovingly. Let's sometimes be seen to be giggling off camera. It's really interesting because
she was far too old for him. She was in her 30s.
Well, it's true. He only dates supermodels in their 20s. But we all fell for that because we wanted it to be true because the chemistry was so good. They're trying to sell a movie, and it's getting harder and harder to sell a movie. Nobody's going to show clips on TikTok of you just standing there, sitting there going, well, the material was really interesting and I thought it was great when the director told me to move my hand over here. No, they don't give a shit about that. They want to know if he's eating Pammy's sourdough literally and figuratively.
Holly, you just talk about going over the line. But this didn't happen in the 90s is the point. Like, for instance, Brad Pitt and Juliette Lewis fell in love on a movie. Like, Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman. People used to actually fall in love during movies.
This is the thing. Actors actually do fall in love during movies, right? And us civilians, we don't really understand how you could pash someone for 3 months solid and then go home to your husband, do we? Like, we find that a bit weird. But they know how to do it. But also sometimes it spreads into real life chemistry for sure.
It's being dialed up. Something is changing, and it's that you need to make more content post-film than for film. And
because they're really hard to sell.
They're really hard to sell. And so if we watch Liam and Pamela, then what we look at is we go, I could watch 2 hours of that chemistry. I'm being sold this chemistry and I'm going to watch it and try and decipher whether it's real or not. But another example of this was the Wicked press tour. That, to me, every time I saw a new interview or statement or red carpet, they were acting. There was an element of acting. There was an earnestness and
The fingernail holding.
The fingernail hold. It was perfect. It was absolutely perfect because they couldn't orchestrate a romance because actually that was quite controversial because of Ariana and ending her marriage. But those two knew they had a job to do that was just as hard as the movie, and they went, we are going to make viral content out of this, and we all fell for it. I'm interested to see what they're going to do for the next Wicked press tour because they need a news story.
They do, and I think that this just shows you how hungry we all are. The way to spot if a romance is real is, are they trying to hide it? That is when it is real. Like Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt back in the day, until they were ready to do their pap shot on the beach with the kid, they were like, whoa, nothing to see here, no way. Also what we've seen recently, and last week I watched a lot of this on my feeds, is Zoe Kravitz and Austin Butler, two of the most attractive human beings. The chemistry is off the charts. Everybody's going, they're dating. They're just really good actors, and now I want to see the film, to your point, because I'm like, watching these two do this, I could do that all day.
She's actually dating Harry Styles.
Exactly. It was a classic misdirect. Out Louders, a massive thank you for being here with us on Monday, and thank you to our fabulous team for putting our show together. We're going to be back in your ears tomorrow. Goodbye.
Bye.